Hey everybody, welcome to our 21st Century Democracy and Technology Meetup. I'm Chang, so I wear a lot of hats. So I'm on the Campaign Planners Board and very proud of that affiliation. And I'm chair of what we call the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, whose mission is to increase voter engagement in New York City elections. I'm the founder and CEO of Tipping Point Partners, manages the space, and we serve as kind of an entrepreneurial firm on steroids. We create about 2 companies a year, and have the privilege of working with some amazing people who are here, and also very closely with Method. We've done now 3 projects together, all of which were successful, and we're working more, and Pivotal Labs, who we've worked with on many projects as well, so that's been great. On the civic space, we'll go to the NYC Votes last. We operate this workspace here it's really the only place that we know of in the U.S. where that's focused on companies run by serial entrepreneurs. And not surprisingly, most of the companies here are also focused on B2B or business enterprise work. And so there's a very close affinity to that sort of background, and also very interested in civic technologies. We also, and then we're about to right now, we are going to move this facility into a much larger tech campus that we're co-developing with New York Law School in Tribeca. We'll go from about 110 people here to a potential capacity of about 300 people in the new space. And we'll be tightly integrating with the law school and the tech clinic. And we're also bringing with us a program that we created with CUNY, which is the 3rd largest university system in the country. We figured that with 500,000 students, there are probably a few dozen decent software engineers. And so we created a software apprenticeship program that's been, we graduated our first class and going to our second class, and so that's been very successful. We're looking to also bring in Baruch and undergrad and Baruch Zicklin School of Business into this new campus. So we're very excited about this, and you'll start seeing things coming out in the fall about this effort. We also, just as an announcement, we also, and with Pivotal, we're part of creating a revolutionary new software system for child welfare called Casebook. You can find it at casecommons.org. And I think we're very proud of the fact that it's now fully implemented in the state of Indiana as a statewide child welfare system of record. And it's the only web-based, social-based, collaborative workflow tool in health and human services nationally. About a month ago, HHS revised their rules in a way that allows states to license Casebook in a way where they can be reimbursed by the feds for that effort. And so we're very pleased with that, and I think that's pretty exciting. So if you want to learn more about it, go to casecommons.org. Cool. So I guess you guys have a demo.
Sure.
You guys want to start?
Yep.
Sure. Well, thanks Art and everyone for having us here. We introduced ourselves earlier, but to go over it again, we are FundElevator. So you see up here, crowdfunding to change the world. What does that really mean? We focus, I think everyone goes, a lot of reaction I get these days is, another crowdfunding site, right? But we like to think we're kind of more than that. It's kind of almost a misnomer because there is kind of this engagement aspect to it, this free marketing, get to know you aspect, and hopefully a way to capitalize and empower more social movements and political movements. So as you can see here, the site's kind of bifurcated, not to use legalese terms, but it's basically split into 2. It's almost kind of 2 sites in one. And what we do on one side, we keep things separate. We have politicians, and we'll get to that in a moment. It's probably most of our focus will be today. On the other side, we have causes, and now causes can be charitable projects. It can also be political advocacy groups, things of that sort. And I'll actually jump into a couple of those examples in a little bit. So, the reason we apply crowdfunding to this space is kind of, there's a certain power behind small donations in these spaces. If you're a politician, I always say this, I'd rather have $1 million from a million people than $1 million from a super PAC or from some big donor. Because when someone, especially if they're in your voting district, they give you $1 or $10, that's tantamount to a vote, right? So it's a pretty powerful thing to kind of see that manifest. Obviously, part of the reason we got into this game was we were a little bit frustrated, and we realized instead of trying to take money out of politics, let's just shift where the money's coming from. So hopefully one day, when we're out and about a little bit more and on people's minds and on the radar more, what I always say, I'll judge our success by, not monetarily, but more that there's someone like, I'll use Wendy Davis as an example, but the next Wendy Davis, and it could be a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, what have you, that really comes up because we're here, right? The people can really lift them up, and you can have someone that you were part of the democratic process more. You were the funders. So there's kind of that more alignment of interest where you can count on them to serve your interest. So that's kind of one of the real reasons we do what we do, or got here. And the same's true for political movements, right? So you can have a lot of petition sites out there, and I think they're great, Change.org and all these places, but I feel like what's lacking is this political capital that's to be had, right? And again, it's the power of small donations here. So, and by the way, as a preamble, it's going to be a little more conceptual right now. I'm going to be talking for a second. We'll get more interactive in a second, but and it's powerful too is applied to the cause side of things. If you have, let's say, there's a ban on Tesla in North Carolina, and we think that's bad, right? Because Tesla's American innovation, it's such a great thing. Why is the government getting in the way of that? And I don't mean to say that as a conservative talking point. I just mean that with a clean slate. That's something you can get behind, and if you give $1, I think that says more than I signed an online petition. Not only does it say more to the world, it says more to politicians. So it's really it's digitizing this lobbying effort. I think that's the power of the crowdfunding model as applied to this space. That's where really can have a voice, not just on who we elect, but also what gets done. And I think politicians at the end of the day listen to money, but they listen to votes. And again, like I said, if you give a politician $1, you're going to vote for them. If you give $1 to a cause, they know that's something that you care about enough that they're going to really listen to that effort that much more. So that's kind of why we do what we do. So, what does this mean? Democracy for and by the people, a choice of leaders. So whether we're empowering the next Wendy Davis, like I said, or it's, the normal crop, you now have a choice in the process and a voice on issues. So I'll dive into some examples now. We didn't prep for any kind of demo here, so just jump into the cause side.
We're very formal audiences.
Yeah. You just jump into causes. So we're beta testing next week, but if you go back for a second, just to show them quickly, ignore we have a couple test campaigns here as we're testing, but most of them are actually at this point all real campaigns. And really quickly, you can really simply browse by category or by location, and we feature on top a couple of other ways to find people. We have some really cool campaigns. Some are charitable projects like helping underprivileged kids get, sporting goods and, the good ramifications of that, helping the LGBT community, helping, people that have mental illnesses use the healing power of clay. And some of these are really local and some of them are more national. And then this one's kind of political-esque. It's kind of up the Bitcoin avenue as far as fighting that. But we're going to dive into, as an example, I want to dive into Help USA. It's a great charity we're working with. An example of one I haven't heard of, and they're not by any means like too tiny. It's run by Maria Cole Cuomo, who's married to Kenneth Cole and is Andrew Cuomo's sister. So if you always ask yourself, like, why'd you pick these two? Well, when you get into it, you kind of realize quickly why we did. A lot of the people on the boards of charities or politicians, this was started by Andrew Cuomo, I believe, our governor, about 27 years ago, and now his sister has the reins. But it's a great thing. So they basically help homeless veterans find a place to live and get them truly on their feet and off the street. And it's a wonderful thing in a charitable sense. It truly is. And I'll bring this up now, but one of the cool things we do, like I said, the site's split in two, but the one tangible tie-in we have, and this is kind of an opt-in program, is that politicians can say which causes they support. and causes can say which politicians support us. So obviously there's the value of cross-pollination there and cross-marketing, and for the politician the value is really strong because it's like what we call the digital baby kiss times 3. Because you have something like, homeless, veterans, charities, New York City. I mean, that's just like quadruple whammy. So Help USA is great. It's pretty, if you scroll down, pretty standard stuff. Is very Kickstarter-esque as far as, you get the video and a gauge and a bio and perks, and you can read more about what would be the kind of the scroll effect on Kickstarter would be our read more pop over here, where you can really, without a character limit, just let it all hang out. You close that for a second. We're a little bit more focused, and everything is, hopefully we don't die out. Everything's shareable. Obviously, it's very important. Both the main page and a lot of our ancillary features. But one of the cool things we do is we do events. Events is actually on both sides of the site. I'll just show it here and not show it later. But this can be, what, are we good with battery?
What? Do you want to dive in?
What's that? Oh yeah, you can dive into event, sure. So this can be obviously any kind of event. We want to craft this kind of one-stop shop that makes it more fun for the user and better for the charity. So I don't know if this one is kind of like a happy hour type deal, but it can be fundraisers, it can be rallies, it can be all sorts of stuff. Really simple. If it's free, you can attend it. If it costs money, you can pay for it here. You can share it, get more info. All the key metrics are up here. You can go back. Sorry for the slow internet. And another thing we do is really cool, and this is actually specialized, and I said we were really focused niche-wise on each market. On the charity side, one of the cool features we have is auctions, and it's more, we can see this celebrity-driven because that creates a lot of buzz. If you have Tom Brady, whether he's donating a passing practice to teach your daughter or son how to play football, or he's autographing memorabilia, he tweets it, that hits a lot of people. And what we're really about is hitting people you're not reaching, right? So that's one of the powerful ways in our all the above marketing approach. It's like number 6 on a good way to get it out there in a grassroots fashion. So that's pretty cool. And same kind of, the auction feature, you don't have to dive into it. Looks just like the event did. Picture, all the same metrics, only you'd bid instead of attend. If you scroll down, photo gallery, pretty standard stuff there. I think a video is very good for connectivity, and then a textual echo of that's wonderful. But obviously a photo gallery is like somewhere in between there where it speaks volumes for all the good stuff you do. It's pretty simple. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to get into the ancillary tabs, aren't as important. I usually dive into that when I'm talking to clients. But we'll switch over now to politicians. Same kind of browsing feel, only this time instead of by category, it's by office type. So we have subcategories. So we represent everybody. So it's like the town board in my hometown to the mayor of wherever to councilmen, congressmen, senators, state senators, assemblymen, all sorts of politicians. So it's really helpful at different levels. For like a local person, they don't need to raise much, but it's really that one-stop shop where they don't have to worry about now SEO or a website and all these things. And for the higher you go up on a national profile, there's really that value of like the marketplace and getting people involved in the democratic process. And at the very least, whether you raise money or not, you're coming across as likable for and by the people, and people feel like, I got to know you, I see where you stand on the issues now. And there's different use cases. I could be like, best case scenario, I love you, I'm going to donate, I'm a new supporter, I'm going to donate, I'm going to share it and get like 10 more people to donate, and that's wonderful, right? Then you have somewhere in between where it's like, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to ask you some questions, see if I want to donate. And then at the bare minimum, you have someone comes on and goes, I'm going to vote, I want to find out where you stand. Either way, it's a good place to be, which is why we've been very well received. But let me see here. So yeah, we'll dive into actually, we'll use John Liu, because at this point I like to use some of our more real campaigns as we're doing our soft launch next week. The mayor's race is great. There's so many candidates right now, so it's almost, we as voters are kind of inundated, and well, not inundated really, but just kind of left wondering who we vote for, what do we do. Obviously this group probably isn't as much as most of the people, I think I could safe to say that we all take an interest in these things, but the average person is that isn't completely disinterested and cares only about what baby Kate's having across the pond. There is a middle ground where people care, but they're not quite, they don't know where to go, and that's kind of the aggregation value we have. So this is now, it's a similar template as before, but a few different features. So I'll skip over the stuff that we kind of saw already, the bio, the read more, the video, the gauge, events again, and into integration of social media. Here we have a town hall. So I don't have any questions filled out yet because John's just starting his campaign. But the way this works is basically, you submit a question to John, and if he chooses to answer that question, it goes public, and now we can all see it kind of happen. And obviously, for us, it feels good to know that they're accessible, they're open, we can engage with them, we can ask them specific things, we can ask them tech questions about Airbnb regulations or whatever we would like. We can ask them follow-ups if they go, I'm going to fix education, or I'm doing the minimum wage thing, and then how are you going to do it? If they don't answer that well enough, we can ask them questions. For now, in our first iteration, we're not putting too much pressure on them because we want them at the table. So it's private, and if they answer it, it becomes public, and then we'll all kind of take part of it. We can share it. We can all get involved. If you move down, we have our top priorities, another key feature for politicians. And this is basically a kind of an at-a-glance where you stand. So if you jump into any one priority, they can have as many as they'd like. All of our features have like view all buttons where you go to a separate page and you'd see all the questions or if it were scaled out a bit more. Let's pop over, it's taking a while to load. But anyway, what's this here? So John's doing stop and frisk here, which is cool. So that's the what. When it pops up in a second, it's going to say, why am I doing stop and frisk? There's somewhat of a character limit, not as daunting as Twitter. There's 140 characters, but somewhat of a way to keep the conversation succinct and focused. So they say, why is it important to me and how am I going to do it? So again, that's the kind of use case. You come here and now you got to know them through the video a little bit, the normal spiel, but now you also kind of see substantively where they stand a bit more. So that's pretty much the key stuff here. Photo gallery again, sandwiched in between here. I don't have it up now because they didn't opt in yet, but that's where it would say causes I support with a little picture and vignette of that cause and does the cross-linking. I'm nearly done. Really quickly, actually, was we skipped it. I want to just go to the anti-fracking campaign. Yeah, and the causes again. I want to show the applicability of political causes. So we're working with this group called Catskill Citizens in upstate New York. They're awesome people. I don't fall either way on these issues, especially when I'm being taped. We are a pass-through facilitator, and we're agnostic. We truly are. So, and anyone can come onto the site as long as you're legitimate. We check on to make sure you're not like raising money and you're not running. If you got the petition signatures with the CFB and you're going and you're a Green Party guy, cool. Whatever. We don't say no. If you want to be pro-fracking, that's cool too. We don't get in the way of that. This happens to be one of our first campaigns, isn't it? This is really going slow. It's okay. I can just talk. It is a anti-fracking campaign, but it's cool. You have people like Mark Ruffalo behind it, and you can go on, like I said before. We don't have to dive into it again because it's the same kind of template as the charitable one I Help USA's. But it's just what I talked about before with kind of a way for them to digitize and create some more leverage and power and this digital online people's lobbying effort that's a little bit stronger than the petition, and a way for them, which is a wonderful group, to really reach a wider audience and make a stronger connection with them, and kind of have their voices heard in the process, right? And we try to keep it fun, so that there's good fun ways to motivate you to give $1, so there you go. I always like that one. So that's pretty much it. That's the site. It's really simple and straightforward now in our first iteration, but it's definitely, we think, a pretty solid MVP, and we were blessed with our third co-founder who's not here, is a graphic designer who's like an award winner. Serendipitously enough, we all went to high school together. I'm the oldest, way different years. She was younger than me. James is 9 years younger than me. I'm 28, he's 19, she's 27, and she's actually out in Boulder where I went to undergrad. And she's just not coming. I don't think she's coming back because I've been there. If I went there older, I probably wouldn't come back either. So that's our whole company story and who we are, what we do, and if you guys want to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And that's pretty much the product. Yeah. Oh, I gotta do the plug. Go to our coming soon page. Sign up for email notifications when we launch. We'll be going our soft launch next week. Hard launch probably shortly thereafter, and like us on Facebook. So that's it. But yeah, thanks guys. If you guys have any questions at all, or okay.
Was this here in New York, and you're showing the New York politicians? When you have a user can make a contribution to a politician, how does that actually work?
It's a good question. This is where I first started talking to Chris.
Business process, the money flows.
Yeah. Well, You want,
take it?
I don't mind taking it. Not too technical.
Let's see how good you are.
Let's see how good I am. We use Stripe, and we think Stripe's awesome. We used it transactionally for legal reasons. We used it for their marketplace for our own tech purposes. It just made sense for our company. I know you guys use Stripe, so we think Stripe's awesome. You think Stripe's awesome. Stripe's pretty awesome. So that's how we do it transactionally. And then on the donor information side, obviously we have to be compliant, and to be scalable and flexible, I could easily find out what's needed by the CFB for the multiple races that are going here, or for we have a lot of U.S. Congressmen coming on board for U.S. Congressmen. So it's pretty standard stuff. We want it to be scalable, so we did it so that they go on our back end, and we tested with Dan Cho, that they basically enter in their custom fields. So on the account settings, a campaign manager will come on and say, we need employee information, these actual fields. If you want to put in text, like a disclaimer, that's cool. You want to put in a checkbox saying I read this, that's cool. All the stuff you would need to be completely compliant and flexible so that whatever office you're running for, we're good. There are some nuances in the laws, like for New Jersey gubernatorial race, a little bit different, but that's not so much more donor information as it is structural and transactional, and we actually we talked to their campaign finance board, and we're good with them. Just a little bit different. I don't want to get into it and bore you, but if that answered your question. So I do okay, right?
Yeah.
Not a tech guy doing tech things here.
So I have a question for my team, which is Michael and Mike. Could we help these guys out? Could we stand up an API that would help them speed their way to including contributions in a approved way on their site?
I think definitely we've kind of captured the rules and the regulations around the contributions and how that information pretty much down to a T. So yeah,
Great.
Definitely. So maybe if we can't literally provide the API, we at least have the documentation and the audit trail. Make it a lot easier to work with.
Yeah, I use that word API a lot, but I'm gonna have a chance to talk to you guys afterwards about that. But cool, thank you. Appreciate that.
It'd be a good conversation.
Definitely.
I'm interested because I don't know anything about tech, so I feel
It's the same here.
So you anticipate, I don't know if those campaigns are those people really signed up with you?
Like
Or
80% of the ones you saw are real. Yeah.
So, and the campaigns don't have any issue with using, when you go to this page, would you see all those campaigns? So I see, you have Chris Quinn, you have John Liu, they're running against each other, Joe Lota, they're all running against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the campaigns have no issue with just all appearing on the same page and basically having,
No, because
competition right there.
Yeah, well, they're already competing. Obviously, right now it's in a primary, but for them, this is added value. At the level they are, it's a complementary effort. And I think someone was going to do it, and then it's kind of like, I don't want to be the only person not on this for and by the people, amazing platform. Where I think the good PR made it hard to say no to, and the fact that we're free to use, and I'm not going to get into it beyond that, but it made sense. It's another way to communicate with voters, get supporters, get engagement, come across as likable. So why would you not do it? Was more the way we've been received. Every time I talk to the lowest level person I engage with at the beginning of a campaign, they're always like, I don't see the downside. And I go, I'm glad you said that. Neither did we when we made this. That's why we made it this way. So no, obviously, and they always ask that, like, me competitors on there? I'm like, you know what? Yes. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say no to someone. I'm not picking sides. This isn't, Act Blue. This isn't, red state or whatever. We do it all. So, we give them a chance to come across and be likable. And the people that take advantage of that the most and are genuinely great will shine the brightest. And it's like anything, they do a debate together. They're going to do a debate together. They're competing, or there's a news article written about them. It just is what it is. So this is just another way that it's nothing new. We're just repackaging it and trying to digitize it to a wider audience for them. So they always ask that, but they're not deterred too much to not come on because of it.
Yeah, I just was wondering, because, I guess, Kickstarter, you just see kind of like the campaign that you're, like, that they're, you don't see all Kickstarter campaigns when you go.
Oh, that was most popular, so if you go to most popular Kickstarter,
it will show it, okay.
Oh, yeah, obviously you filter it somewhat.
So you filter it by position, you can filter by location, and all these other filters.
But you can't filter by party. We don't play that. I'll take it real quick.
How do you plan to promote and market the services you roll out?
We have some pretty good plans. This stuff we're just kind of keeping under wraps for now. but we have some good plans to do that. Definitely that's the one thing that keeps me up at night, in the sense that you can't think about that too much. And that's where I'm not a tech guy, where like, and James is pretty grounded too. So when we first started this, it was kind of like, I don't know. I'm very much more business oriented behind it. Even though I don't have a business background, I'm like a history major and a law degree. But I'm a very firm believer in, you have to make sure you manufacture some interest, and bit by bit, success story by success story, grow it out, scale it out. But obviously some of the usual stuff like press releases and
It's like organically.
yeah, manufactured organic food. Yes. I mean, you can't overthink that too much, is what I'm saying. But there certainly is a natural organic appeal to it.
We have specific plans.
We have specific plans I'm not going to get into, but we have some very good plans for doing that. Yeah. Emil, you were going to ask something?
Yeah, it seems like kind of like you guys have two kind of different products here. You have causes and the fundraising for politicians. Is there like a side that you're focusing on more? Because it seems like eventually they will have different needs. I mean, it will be like, we'll have different challenges.
Of course. I mean, we don't know what's going to take off more, and quicker, but I feel like they are a good natural fit together. Our job, and we're doing some revamps of like our homepage and stuff, and all the little tiny things that make the experience a little bit more professional. But the end user has to come here and not be asking that question so much. That's our goal, they need to see the natural fit. Because once you peel back the veneer, it really is a natural fit when you think about it. So as far as who I focus on, I care about every client, I care about every campaign. We focus on getting quality ones and successful ones that can go viral and do well. Some stuff you can't plan for. Like I always use Change.org or Kickstarter as an example. So Kickstarter did well. They had a couple, I think, $1 million campaign, but then Pebble Watch made them. And they were out for a few years before that. Change.org was doing okay, trucking along, and then the Trayvon Martin shooting was their biggest campaign. So I don't know what's going to happen. Again, that's one of those I said before, that the next whoever, the next Emil is running, right? Now they can, and you couldn't have run until you heard about us. We're up for a year or so with a little bit of marketing and movement going and traction. But until that time comes, there is really cool campaigns that will pique some people's interest in a niche way that normally wouldn't be interested in this kind of stuff. And I think when you're looking at it from the charitable stuff's great. It's this whole change the world thing, that tie-in. But politically, we're definitely first movers. So it's the politicians, and the cause side, it's like digitizing the lobbying experience. I think it's a very natural fit and very symbiotic. But we focus even-handedly on both, I'd say. Okay. Yeah.
I wonder a little bit about sort of the difference between a cause and an organization and an individual's campaign that's related to that cause, and sort of thinking about politicians backing causes. Does that put politicians in a situation where they have to choose which organizations or which organizations' causes, as you're defining them, they're supporting, when a lot of organizations might be working on practically the same thing but approaching it more?
Exactly. That's a good question. How do they pick and choose? If 5 are doing the same thing, they're both this stance on immigration, which one do they pick? They'll probably pick the one that is the most popular support before they came onto the site. But actually just
interesting to see how it's used when it's
exactly. So why would they endorse certain ones? I mean, at the end of the day, we're not doing anything that different. We're just allowing them to do the stuff they would do in the real world online. So if they're not comfortable endorsing someone in person, they wouldn't do it here. The point of doing it here is it's the internet. This is not a new thing. This is 15 years old. It can reach more people, and it could help complement it that much more. So that's kind of why we have that tie-in, and obviously it's up to them who they choose to endorse. And for CFB purposes, it's not campaign money going to it. It's their personal funds or whoever. So there's no kind of messiness there.
Speaking of funds,
Yeah.
so once you launch, how do you keep this going? What's the business model?
In terms of
How do we? What's our revenue model?
Revenue, investment, is it you guys are 501c?
No, we are raising seed money right now. We take a percentage of all the funds that are raised through our site. We also have plus accounts for extra data, and along with tons of other revenue models. Being a YC grad, I know that there's no such thing as too many revenue models. So we definitely built that into when we were building our site.
Yeah, we're a for-profit company, but we didn't get into. We're kind of a for-change company. That's why we got into this field. And I actually heard a lot of good talks and meetups and TED Talks about people kind of in our similar space where they have good arguments for why you can help the world and other charities more as a for-profit company that takes a very, very fair nominal fee, as opposed to 501s helping 501s. And obviously that doesn't work as well as if a business is doing it.
What's your haircut?
What's that?
What's your haircut?
Pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less than act blue, or
What's that?
less than act blue.
Less snack blue.
Less than act.
Less than Act Blue. Remind me what Act Blue is again.
It's fundraising basically.
No, I know what Act Blue is. Remind me what their percentage was.
It's like 4%, 3.5.
It's around that ballpark. Yeah, it's around the ballpark. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest problem with Act Blue is that they're only reaching the same Democrats. So like, you don't want to be on a platform that's
Yeah, I think it's you catch more flies with
Early
honey.
adopters are Republicans.
And what's that?
Your early adopters are Republicans.
Well, I think they
No, they're honestly, they're probably going to be more independent.
Anyway, I'll take this one. But Republicans, I think, would need this more as a group right now, especially if we look at the landscape. But it's really for everyone. And when you're trying to win an election, you got to get the independent vote. You have to get the certain demographic vote. You have to get the moderate Republican. You have to get the moderate Democrat. Obviously, for primaries, Democrats want Democrats, right? But when you're moving into the more general election, for any level, any race, you need to reach everyone. So that's what we do. That's one of the I think ancillary benefits of being agnostic. It's not why we decided to do it, but it's definitely is one of the reasons that it makes sense. Anything else? Any less business questions? This is getting very personal here. I don't know if I like where this is going. All my haircut and everything. I just got a haircut. It looks great.
We focus on business model.
This is not New York Tech Meetup, right? When you go there, they're like, don't ask about business model.
Right.
All right.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was great. Thanks, guys.
So I think just to kind of orient everybody as to what we're doing tonight. So NYC Votes, the whole voter tool goes fully live on August 7th at the New York Tech Meetup. And the group that is going to present it tonight is a group that's going to present it, at least I say some of us, I think, are going to present it next week. And so this is in some ways a dry run. You get a sneak preview of what we're going to show, but also you're going to witness a live rehearsal for our presentation. Now there's some other exciting things about this, which is that so we're launching on New York Tech Meetup, and we have some major press also planned that we hope will come out on the day before and the day of. And so we are hoping that New Yorkers far and wide and people elsewhere will actually see what we're doing. So we're gonna get up here and just see how this rolls out.
Okay.
So, Amy, you want to open it up?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I'll just start. I'm Amy Loprest again. I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Campaign Finance Board, and what we do is we run the city's public financing program. And so I like to think of it in this kind of context as kind of the original crowdsourcing platform. We give $6 in New York City funds for every dollar a candidate raises from New York City residents, and so up to $175. So a $10 contribution is worth $70 to a campaign, and as a result, the whole purpose of this is to encourage candidates to reach out to real voters and rely on them rather than relying on big money contributions from wealthy donors to get their funds to run for office. For this election in particular, our mission grew a little bit to expand to reach out to voters, to engage voters, to register and to vote in the elections. And as you must know, we have a really important election coming up in September and then in November. And we thought that what was really an important way to enhance our voter engagement was to use new technology to do that. It'll scale up our efforts, make us able to reach a lot more people than we could with our old-fashioned, person-to-person kind of outreach, and reach a lot of people who aren't reached at all by those traditional methods, particularly younger people who are involved in the tech, social media. So we entered into this partnership, and we have two sides of our app. One is for candidates, to raise contributions. One is for voters, and since I don't know anything about the tech, I'm going to let everybody else talk about the tech end of it.
Well, I think we would have something to look at, but I think Method was really excited about the project just because I think there's a huge lack sort of in this space just in terms of what we can do with sort of the digital technology and how it should be leveraged. And so for us, branding this experience as well as designing an application around it, I think this was a really great opportunity for us. So, we wanted to create something that was extremely universal because again, the folks in New York is very broad just in terms of the demographics and issues that sort of come up. And so creating something that I think is flexible, but at the same time just pretty well understood in terms of the application was something that we kind of wanted to achieve. And so, I think we'll probably go through a couple screens and maybe talk a little bit more about the mark itself, but it's pretty geeky. It's more focused on the tech itself and less on the actual visual design.
Yeah, so I mean, it is responsively designed, and we wanted to start with a mobile web application instead of doing something native so that we can reach the widest possible audience. I'm Michael Schubert from Pivotal Labs. I'm one of the directors there, and Pivotal Labs has been around for 20 years, and it started in San Francisco, and we came to New York, and one of the first projects was with art. And back in 2008, one of the first big projects we did here was actually for a good cause, which was to build a child welfare system software. And, that started in 2008 and still going on. And part of our mission at Labs is to change the way the world builds software. And so it's kind of nice when there's a project that comes along that hopefully will change the world. So NYC Votes is kind of exciting because everyone who's participating on the project lives in New York and is a voter, and so it's nice for them to actually see that direct connection. At the same time, though, we were able to apply a lot of our practices and principles to it, which allowed us to build kind of the product that you see today, kind of at the speed that we did. So we're using kind of all of our core practices of test-driven development and pair programming, very extensive testing around integration and stuff around the payments, and dealing with all the sensitive data and stuff of all the voter information. And also using all the modern things, right, that every startup is using, Heroku and GitHub and Stripe, and Stripe's Connect program, which is actually pretty critical to making the ability for us to handle campaign contributions go through. And, it's built on REST4 and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. We'll just kind of quick demo through. As Amy mentioned, the app is still working for bifurcated. There are actually two sort of sections of the application for voters and for contributors. And so for voters, our goal is to really leverage some of the continuous integration over time and to iterate this and get more and more features in front of people as they need them leading up to the election. The first is to get out and register to vote. So you have 15 days left. And we'll use this space to alert voters about particular information that they need to know coming up. In the coming weeks. With calls to action to engage with different parts of the application. So to register to vote, sometime tomorrow around noon when I click this button, it will take you to a page about information about registering to vote. We also have ways for voters to go ahead and engage with their candidates so that they can see who's running for office and get particular details about them, search for someone who's running for office that they may be interested in, and to jump to get details. They'll also be able to interact with social media and know the social media links for those candidates, which will also be in tomorrow when the data goes live. And be able to go back and sort of peruse for more candidates. They can search by location, by candidate, or by office.
I think you'll notice with a lot of sort of the list-based format, we want to make sure that we're not giving any more prominence to any candidate, and making sure we're sort of stepping back and just presenting the information, making sure it's a good repository of stuff that everybody can kind of add to, and make sure it just feels like a good resource for people to get information and find out about candidates, find out about their issues, and then having the ability to donate, I think is really, really exciting.
And autocomplete, because we don't always know how to spell people's names.
That's cool. That's a great feature.
On the candidate side, we work closely with CFB in order to get a list of who the candidates are, their contact information, so that they can go ahead and create accounts with us, leveraging Stripe both as a payment processor, but also as a means to go ahead and enable us to collect all sorts of additional information without having to incur the security risk. So we're able to collect all the information that somebody needs in order to make a compliant contribution and to export some data so that they can make their reporting to the Campaign Finance Board of the City of New York that much easier. So we went ahead and worked closely with everyone to achieve that, and that way, whenever anyone is using or getting a contribution, the process gets all of the information and only all of the information that somebody needs.
And maybe worth mentioning what the process is today without something like this.
Well, now, I guess candidates there's a variety of ways. This is intended to make it a lot simpler for candidates, but candidates have either go out to fundraisers, collect, contributions by check, or have people fill out their credit card information, sign a card, give cash, low amounts of cash, or many candidates have on their website a system that they have to have their own processor, their own merchant account number that processes their contributions via credit card through the web. And it's a complicated process, and for a lot of the city council candidates, the people that, the program is intended to help, these small candidates who wouldn't otherwise be able to run without the public money, it can be overwhelming. And I think that we have, Michael probably knows the numbers better, but I think I saw the numbers from last week, and the numbers are kind of astounding. We have about 260, and the numbers aren't registered candidates, and the number of people who have, either looked at this or hit on it is, very high. Compared to the number of candidates. So even though we've only been live for 3 weeks? Yeah, it's amazing. So I think candidates, we had a presentation from candidates, and they really seemed really receptive.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Throughout the summer, we'll be rolling out more and more features, helping folks realize where their polling location is, what their individual ballot is based on their preference for a given party and their location, and making sure they get to the poll place on time and at the right time.
Very cool.
Can I wanted to say, one, we're really thankful to all the people who have done this, with us, because we all volunteered a large amount of time. My staff has also spent a lot of time working on it, but I think it's going to be really super great. One thing that Michael didn't mention, which is one of my favorite features, is that on the candidate information, you're going to actually have their photos.
Yes. And they'll be there.
Because they come, all that data information comes from information that candidates submit to be in the voter guide that we produce. So it'll all be uploaded into here.
Yes, no more.
When will we have the candidate information tomorrow?
Yeah, they're publishing the report, I think around 12 minutes, and we should be picking it up.
That's great.
Very cool.
Okay, so one of the things I might say about this is that that there's a direct connection between, as you correctly pointed out, between small contributions and campaign finance rules that essentially transfer power from large special interests to the people. And this is one of the fundamental tenets of the Campaign Finance Board's program. And I think as an outgrowth of that, we've been able, at this time, with all the things that are happening in technology around the world that transfer power to people, that we're taking advantage of this new climate and being able to provide a set of tools that gives people power over their choices in their democracy here in New York City, backed by this powerful campaign finance rules and operation represented by the Campaign Finance Board. And to that end, we really brought together an amazing public-private partnership, starting with the platform offered by the Campaign Finance Board, and then bringing in some of the top local technology firms, Method, Pivotal, and others, to really help build this, and build it in a way which is not just a piece of quickly cobbled together software, but it was really a sustainable piece of software that will last, hopefully, for many, many campaign cycles and can be built upon. we're really proud of the work that the Campaign Finance Board staff have done, and especially their technology team, where we've been able to, for the first time, to be able to have integrations between the data that resides within the Campaign Finance Board's databases, which have never been brought out before, but are being brought out in new ways today by the leadership of the Campaign Finance Board's tech team. And where we can take advantage of that new mindset inside the Campaign Finance Board and take those data sets and actually bring them and incorporate them into the software that we're building for the NYC Votes tool. After this election, and maybe prior to the primary, it is our goal to take all of the learning that we've done, the software modeling that we've done based on the Campaign Finance Board's globally recognized business process for best practices in campaign finance rules, and the software that's intended to directly empower people in New York City, and we're going to make that open source so that people in New York City can continue building on it for the benefit of New Yorkers, but so that people in the rest of the country and the rest of the world can see what it is we're doing, how we're doing it, and they can use that as a platform for change in their own communities. So, thank you very much.
Very cool.
This project never would have happened without the forward-thinking leadership of Amy Loprest at the Campaign Finance Board. As well as my fellow board members on the board who were amazing, and the entire team at the Campaign Finance Board, from communications to candidate services to audit and legal. I mean, this was really a monumental effort despite how focused it is. And we've created something which is really unique. And because of that commitment from the public sector, we were able to do something which is extraordinary with the private sector. And so I just really wanted to make sure that we acknowledge how important Method was in taking a brand that was important and valuable and actually bringing it to an entirely new level and creating a user flow and engagement that was fantastic. We actually were able to leverage the old VoteScope team to come in and help augment, some of the work that Method did. And then when you talk about bringing all of this work and bringing it into execution and fruition, it never would have happened without Michael Carlson from AppOrchard and all the hundreds of hours that he has spent doing this, right? And without Pivotal Labs and Mike Schubert's passion for this, it never would have happened. I mean, how do you get one of the top design firms in the country and one of the top software development firms in the country unified on working on something that's entirely pro bono for the public good? It's really an amazing thing, and it's almost a Christmas miracle that this has happened.
It's not a Christmas miracle, it's art.
But this is an amazing. I'm so proud to be part of this team, and it's great.
How cross-platform is it? Web, Android, and iOS?
This is web-based.
Yeah, it's web-based.
Mobile web.
Yeah.
Why do you choose web instead of native apps and iOS and
Just because of the
Time to delivery, right? It's an election year. Wanted to make sure that we got something out. Specifically, since we started with candidates, getting something that could launch on time for them to be able to start taking contributions. So we've built a lot of native apps, and we kind of know the dirty details of when you try to execute and especially pull off two of them and deal with an API and all that stuff. So we hope that native versions could definitely come later. There's a lot of cool features that can't be built unless you're native.
Credit card spoken.
Yeah, but having that solid foundation and also just dealing with, just trying to reach the broadest market possible, right? Weirdly enough, in New York City, you do have a large BlackBerry population, a little bit different than the rest of the country.
And also from my perspective, with the methodology of Pivotal being sort of pushing iterations almost at any time,
for us to be able to deliver features as they're ready and as they're available, and also the ease of which to merchandise it across 4 or 5 different organizations to get people's feedback and to get them all on board at the same time. There's just no comparison.
Michael and I have the privilege of working on our private sector side with, I think, the best iOS team in the US. So if you want to know about that, you can certainly talk to us separately about that.
How did you guys go about getting the candidates on board? Was it part of that public-private partnership with the CFP?
And Chris, you want to address that?
I mean, getting candidates to
Well,
sign up.
I normally wouldn't ask, but then they had to obviously create a Stripe account.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously, I'm assuming the CFP came in and, you know, they're very trustworthy to candidates. So it must have been a very fruitful partnership. Or if it wasn't like that, please feel free to correct
Well, I
me.
mean, in a way, it was presented to candidates in a series of emails that went out, and people had the option to choose to sign up. And beyond that, everyone mentioned before, we had a very successful presentation to candidates where they were allowed to come to New York Law School and kind of sit in an auditorium and get a little run through.
Very cool.
After that, people were very much on board. As Amy said, a lot of signups, it seems.
Great.
Yeah, the Stripe Connect program was kind of critical to this, and that just
Yeah,
came out not too long ago. And I met with one of the co-founders of Stripe, and we talked through it and talked about the future of that and the possibility of this project kind of being global. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked without Stripe. Because the information that we have to store for compliance and the information that we didn't, really have time to handle from a security standpoint.
We agree.
Being able to have those in
Well, we use Stripe Connect.
Yeah.
I mean, also because it's a government project, we have to worry about the FOIL,
Yeah.
getting people's personal, information through FOIL. So it's like that, helps.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so having all that, like all the customer objects up in Stripe, so that, if there's a kind of blood-brain barrier
Yeah.
between our app and that information is also really critical.
Very cool. Sweet. Thanks for having us out, guys. This is great. I'm glad we got I feel like this is a very collaborative space, both technology-wise and more importantly, change the world-wise. And I think I love the way you phrased it, Art. I've said it in not so many, in so many words the same way about, it isn't like a tech thing, it's just like the internet. And to marry these two things together, it's like about damn time. And it's about time we make democracy more informed by the people. And I don't mean that in a capital D Democrat way as a talking point. Politically, I mean that in a lowercase d democracy way. And I think it's a great thing. I think anyone that's doing that is a friend of mine. So, cool stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I hope you all tune in on Wednesday next week. Yeah, New York Tech Meetup is pretty great. 33,000 members,
No.
650 people in the audience, hundreds more watching the simulcast. Good press. Great. All right, good.